Go ahead, just tell us.
Well, I think we were involved with the show from before the scripts were written. So we sort of knew where it was going and what the characters were like. But I was just hugely impressed and by the writing, because Paul Rutman's such a brilliant cinematic writer, so he was able to create these characters for us, but also place them cinematically in a London that was very compelling.
Yeah, it was really satisfying to see it come to life on the page, having spent so many months talking about ourselves, talking about London, and so it felt like the people were really coming to life, and it was satisfying as we went along to see all those human stories come out, so it was really thrilling.
Well, for me, it was a case of I didn't go off and talk to detectives or drive around in squad cars. I have done that actually in the years ago in playing other sort of police-related parts. I thought that it was more important to spend my time trying to figure out what was going on inside this person's head, and to try and create a kind of internal landscape for him. So I did read a lot about police corruption and also about the processes of how I'm a man of a certain age, so the way I would have come into the police force and the way I would have moved up would have been different from the way that someone of Cush's generation would be. So I had to look into that. But largely, it was thinking.
Yeah, I read some outside stuff about corruption. I read a lot about how she would be transferring from the domestic violence unit moving on to being a detective. A lot of June was about playing a person who is really juggling many things and feeling like she's failing at everything. And I didn't feel like my life was that far from that at that time. Because I had a little kid and we were filming very long hours and I was away from home. So I felt like I developed with her as we were writing the scripts, and I felt very ready to play her by the time that we were doing it. I probably don't do as much running or jumping off of things as June does, but that was fun, so.
I think I like to write in a very visual way, I think it's fair to say. So, we had a wonderful director, Jim Loach, who kicked the show off, and Shaun James Grant, who directed the second block. And I think we spent a lot of time just sort of looking at movie references like Michael Mann and so forth, but also I think drawing on London as a kind of charged presence within the show, because this is a show about a melting pot. It's about a huge capital city, and the sort of the kind of chaos of that. And so I think we kind of wanted the show to feel quite urban. We wanted a lot of darkness in there, a lot of night. I think that was one reason why we were quite excited to have Hegarty, Peter's character, as a sort of night driver on the side. So he sort of moonlights, doing chauffeuring gigs.
I think we'd always sort of seen London as a character, because I think often when you see London in TV drama, it's kind of heritage London or it's gangs London. And as someone who's lived in London for 38 years, the city is just so much more complex than that. So we sort of, that kind of, it felt like it couldn't be filmed anywhere else. We thought about other cities, didn't we?
We did,
but we kept coming back to London, especially because London is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and we wanted our show to be really diverse.
Oh gosh, well I always enjoyed working with Cush when we had very, very intense conversations, very intense conflicts. So we often had 5 or 7 page scenes together, which was a wee bit like being on stage. But it was lovely because we didn't sort of prepare or talk a great deal about them. We just sort of unleashed them and saw what happened. And that was always, because Cush is so brilliant, that was always very exciting. I never knew what she was going to do or where that was going to come from. So that for me was very stimulating and challenging.
Those were my favourite scenes were with Peter. I think that the show also, it deals with some very dark themes and some stories that are very close to real life. And so some of my scenes I found to be, no matter how much I tried to separate myself, they can be quite emotional and traumatic, and you have to then repeat them over and over again because that's the nature of filming. And that was difficult sometimes, but it was satisfying as a team for everyone to see it all come together and know there was a reason for that to have to do those things. So that was good too.
I also like seeing Cush in danger. I like
love seeing me in
Cush.
danger.
I liked seeing her coming to the rescue. And I mean, seriously, I think that there was she did that with such grace and such clarity and focus that you saw in that why someone becomes a detective, because there is an inherent spirit about them that wants to help. And I think that was really important in the show, to have that power of, although Cush's character has quite a complex and sort of difficult life, at her heart there is, I think, a kind of pursuit of a moral truth, which is really important.
What he said about me.
It's sort of developed from just a quite an embryonic idea and 2 actors, because I know Peter and Cush well, and so I sort of approached Paul and said, look, here's a little idea and 2 actors, you know, are you interested? Because we've actually known each other for years and worked together before, and he was interested and he was free, and so that was thrilling, and then he just brought all his brilliance to it.
No, for me, I think for me it was. I think I got very excited by the idea, not just of writing for Peter and Cush as wonderful actors who I love very much, but also I think building out a crime thriller from the perspective of two different police officers who are both kind of admirable and brilliant at their jobs, but look at the world through such different lenses, you know, who have such a different generational experience and you know, and I think there is so much room for misunderstanding between them, and I think they start off with this sort of feeling of kind of antagonism, you know, and we talked a little bit about sort of Michael Mann movies when we were starting, and so many of them draw on this kind of pendulum swing of 2 characters kind of locked in a kind of in a collision, and I think for me it was very much this show. I wanted it to feel, certainly at the outset, like a duel, not a double act, you know, you know, I suppose the kind of the excitement of long form television is you can tell a more complicated story, you know, and so the journey that we take them on is one from kind of antagonism through to something a bit more complicated, and we pick away at their worldviews and their sense of each other. Until I think they both realise that that everything is a little bit more complicated, that there are no heroes and villains in this story, or mostly in this world. And, you know, I think we asked the question, is there common ground? Can these people find a kind of mutual respect, a way of working together? Because ultimately, with the story, there is only one truth, and that's obviously the excitement for the audience getting there, I hope.
But obviously wanting it to be sort of really compelling and hooky every step of the way, and the audience, trying to not let the audience ever get ahead of us.
Go ahead, just tell us. I killed her.
Daniel Hegarty.
June Lenker, thanks for seeing me. I'm investigating a phone call.
Police? Listen, he's gonna kill me.
How can I help?
They made an allegation. It was an old case that you'd worked with.
A long time ago, my boyfriend, he stabbed her.
You are aware that he confessed.
What if he's innocent?
That case was investigated fairly.
What is he hiding?
Let it go. Dan is one of the good ones.
There are things that nobody teaches you. Sometimes you have to go the extra mile. There's no shame in that. We got our man.
No, you got a confession.
We need to cover our backs. She's got it in for us.
I think he wants to fight. I can do that.
That's the game. Collateral damage. Do you know the difference between order and chaos?
Are you going to stop me?